aka Man of the People, or your buddy in the media, Chris Jenkins, covering Carolina Panthers for Charlotte Vibe. And tonight, we're going to go and talk about this Carolina Panthers 2024 schedule release. I will admit it's a short turnaround from when it's been released to me doing the video. So some things, the show may go a little slower as I shift my notes around because I didn't want to go too much later. We're already going live at 11 p.m. Eastern time, which is pretty late, but can't be mad at people if I'm not working hard for you all. And big thank you to everybody that has been subscribing to the YouTube channel. Hopefully some of you are returning. I appreciate it. I look forward to hearing from you. And I know you guys like the videos from practice. I'll do them as much as I can. We'll be back at practice Monday. So look forward to some more video content coming and some more analysis, as well as I've been asked to appear on some shows, right? So if you do have a podcast or whatever, and you would like for me to appear, I love it. So feel free to reach out to me and so we can make that happen. So let's go ahead and get into it. The Carolina Panthers 2024 schedule. So as most of you know, as of 7 a.m. Eastern time this morning, the international game was announced as far as when they're going to play in Germany. Don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's week 10, but don't quote me on that just yet. Let me go ahead and start to pull up these schedules and show the graphics for you all. All right, so week 1, New Orleans Saints. That's in New Orleans at 1 o'clock. So yeah, when Ron Rivera was here, he got mad about how many times his team was winning the division. Then we'd have to open on the road. We got lucky a few times recently and have opened at home, but that grace has been taken away, and we will be opening on the road against the New Orleans Saints. That's a 1 o'clock game on Fox. And then we return home. So the season opener will be on Fox. I'm sorry, it will be on CBS, but it will be against the Los Angeles Chargers. So again, the opener will be September 15th, and that will be versus the Los Angeles Chargers and their new head coach. I just saw a light come through, so please also, yes, good reminder, please continue to hit that like button. All right, costs you nothing. Helps other Panther fans find out about the channel. The bigger we grow, the more we can do for you, such as the video content with the practices, players, and coaches. If you haven't seen my interview with Coach Canales and GM Dan Morgan, please just click on the link. You'll see a list of one-on-one interviews, and there you'll be able to see that interview that I did with Canales. Going through the rest of the schedule, we're out of Las Vegas for the first time since the Raiders have been in Vegas. That'll be September 22nd. And then we return home, Cincinnati Bengals. That'll be 1 o'clock at the Bears. That will be a matchup with the current number 1 pick, Caleb Williams, who, is now the quarterback for the Bears. Then we'll go to Atlanta. We'll see Atlanta for the first time in week 6. That'll be here in Charlotte. So whether that's Michael Penix or Kirk Cousins, we're going to see somebody. And let me throw this up here real quick. Got to be here for the man of the people. I appreciate it. Some of you may not be. Some of you may be watching the rebroadcast. No matter how you're watching it, I always appreciate you watching. Continuing on through, we got the Washington Commanders at 4 o'clock on October 20th. We have the Denver Broncos on the 27th in Denver. And then we play the Saints on November 3rd in Charlotte. And then our Munich, Germany game. Yes, I will be there. I was in London. Did a lot of cool stuff. If you haven't seen it, when we went to London, I was actually about as lucky as you can be. I did not fly private. I flew public, and my plane arrived, I guess literally what ended up being at the same time that the Carolina Panthers plane arrived. So I have video of the Carolina Panthers coming through customs in London to go to the game. So that's a pretty neat thing to check out on the channel as well. But we play the Giants in Munich. November 10th, that game will be 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, and hopefully all of you have it. If not, you got time to get it. That game will be on the NFL Network. So let's go ahead and go over to the second half of the season. Then I'm going to break down some of this stuff for you in terms of things that I've noticed through this schedule, and also take any questions that you may have about this schedule. But after Munich, no surprise, we get a bye. Not a bad time to have a bye week. And it's also great that it not only is it after you have a 9-hour flight for a game all the way in Germany, but it's really pretty much smack dab in the middle of the season, giving you a chance to get some rest to players and get charged up for that second half. And this is, I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself here, but it's so obvious. But after that nice mid-season bye, catch your breath, get your legs back under you, get some nice rehab, take a break from the game, whatever these guys like to do for that bye week, they'll have a chance to do it. But then you come back to what I feel, and I think there's been others out there that are saying this as well, is the toughest part of the schedule. So that is, you come home and you play the reigning Super Bowl champs 2 times back-to-back, Kansas City Chiefs. Home game, so you got some fortune there. And then Tampa Bay Buccaneers, your reigning NFC South champions. That is who you play next. And then you play in Philadelphia at the Eagles, a team that has been pretty darn good lately in the NFC East and also has been to the Super Bowl recently. So tough components. And then this next one, these guys, Dallas Cowboys, they have not had much success in the playoffs, but you know what? They play pretty good ball during the regular season, and that's when we're going to face them. Dallas Cowboys probably take over back-to-back years of Bank of America Stadium, playing on December 15th, 4 tough games in a row right after the bye week. And then you also have the Arizona Cardinals at home on the 22nd. And then you have the Tampa Bay. You go to Tampa Bay. And then you have the last game of the season, the Atlanta Falcons, TBD. That's how we finish out the schedule. So let's go ahead and talk about a few things. Let's talk about that Germany game first and foremost, since that is something that we were all anxious to hear about. That, again, will be trying to get it on the screen here and clicking every button but the right one. All right, here we go. That's going to be November 10th in Munich, Germany. So something cool is that the New York Giants will be on Hard Knocks. They're going to be on the Hard Knocks for the first time ever. We got a few players up there in New York. One guy you may kind of sort of be familiar with. He goes by the name of Brian Burns, a.k.a. Spidey. I think that given Hard Knocks and how they expose things, that you could possibly hear some Brian Burns chatter about what happened here in Carolina during his time here. You may not, but it's cool that they'll be on Hard Knocks. I know last year the Jets were, and we played them in the preseason, so the Panthers got some exposure there. Not quite as fortunate, if you will, this time that we play the Giants with much long after the Hard Knocks HBO crew has left. So I want to point that out. All right, so let me go through some takeaways from this schedule. And this is the part where I said I don't have things super organized like I'd like to, but I want to get online and go through this before it got too late for everybody to tune in and check it out. So the Panthers, Carolina Panthers, celebrating 30 years as a team in the NFL. 30 years. And how they rewarded, well, they are rewarded with quite a wacky schedule and something unique. For their 30th anniversary, the Carolina Panthers have 0 primetime games. I repeat, 0 primetime games. They are the only team in the league that does not have a primetime game scheduled. Now, to give a little context for that, the Carolina Panthers did have did have the worst team in the NFL last year. Had the worst record. So you could say worst team. Only won 2 games, lost 15 games. So we didn't have a first round pick. We ended up trading up to get Xavier Leggett, last pick of the first round. So of course, we are optimistic, but the nation as a whole, they're probably not too like Carolina's about to turn it around. We do have a new coach. We did draft some players that I really like a lot, but we have no primetime games. So it's only happened the third time in the Carolina Panthers history. I see a super chat, so I'm going to get to you in just a second. Please stay tuned, and super chats are so welcome. But this is the third time in Panthers history that we have no primetime games. The other time that it happened would have been back in 2002 after the Carolina Panthers finished 1-15. So a very bad record. And then in 2011, when we finished 2-14, another very bad season. So you can't really say that you blame and are so mystified about how the Carolina Panthers did not have any primetime games. Let me go ahead and get this out here, and let me get my sound effects ready.
Super chat.
There we go. We'll play it one more time.
Super chat.
All right, so you got to love that. Digit BR, here is some coffee cash for Chris staying up so late. Hey, I need it. We're going to need a lot of support from you all this season, more support than we've ever gotten as far as your contributions, your donations to the channel. We're independent media. Because of that, we're able to do a lot of fun stuff that you like to do and just have all these live streams and have access to players and coaches. But we don't have anyone writing that big check to cover all of our costs of doing so, and we continue to do more. So if you can, please do the super chat. You can also become a member where it's called a supporter. It's the current level that we have. That helps the channel continue to be funded. You haven't seen my co-host Andre Cass today. He is still with the company, but again, he's on a part-time basis just during the season. But hey, really, really appreciate the super chat there. Thank you so much. Let me continue with where we were. Lost track of my notes. I was about to sing, but I won't sing. Where did my notes go? All right. Well, I'm just going to have to bring up my notes on a different screen since I somehow lost my notes to continue to talk in some kind of order about everything that we've been talking about here. So, continuing on. Strength of schedule. So, I don't get into predictions on what our record's going to be. We've known what our opponents were going to be for some time now, really shortly after the season ended back in January. We knew who the opponents would be. We knew who would be playing home, and we knew who would be playing away. So this is nothing new for me to say, aha, here's our season prediction. But in terms of the schedule, I don't typically get into the predictions, but I like to wait until I've at least seen these guys in training camp. I don't count OTAs. I don't count rookie mini camp or any of that stuff until training camp. And I don't even count the first week of training camp when they're just, not in pads and hidden. So I will certainly give you updates and my predictions as I get enough data to do so. But ESPN did put out a strength of schedule. Forget the exact number that they ranked the Carolina Panthers for that, but they were tied for 29th. So we have a winnable games kind of schedule, right? Winnable games in that we should certainly be in position to win more than 2 games than we did last year. So we'll continue to see, but that is the current strength of schedule for this team. And, I at first thought that this team had a lot of travel, right? We have some West Coast games. We have several West Coast games. And we go to Germany. So I was getting all together and typing up things and doing some calculations. And I'm like, okay, I got it. And then I was like, well, let me figure out what the other teams travel. And, womp. The Panthers do not travel as much as I thought they would compared to the rest of the league. They actually traveled the 11th most in the league this year with their trip to Germany, the 11th most. Not surprisingly, the teams that travel the most are actually the West Coast teams. LA Chargers are number 1. Now, the Dolphins did slide in there at number 2, but that's because they are pretty, bottom of the East Coast, pretty far down, and they have several West Coast games against the LA teams out in California, as well as the Cardinals. So that's a pretty long trip out west for them from Miami. And then, who was the number 3 team? It was LA, it was Miami, and I might have lost my screen to tell you who the other team was. Let's see if I can be a resourceful guy and then quickly find it back. No, I'm sorry, I'm not going to find it. But I strongly believe it was another West Coast team because they have to travel the furthest, coming to, most teams are east of the Mississippi. So that was some more information I wanted to share with you all. And continue to go through. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and hit one of the chats right now, see what you guys have been saying to make sure that I continue to be man of the people and interact with you. So, Mr. Lee, I'm ready for the season big time. Come on, Bryce, get it together, homie. Yeah, Dan Morgan has made it clear that, I'm trying to protect Bryce. Oh, but they've also said it's not just about Bryce. It's about the team. It's about the players getting to know each other. It's about the culture. But obviously they put some steps in there to protect Bryce with their first few free agent signings going to address the line itself. So I'm feeling optimistic and ready for the season as well. Thank you for joining Mr. Lee and adding a little comment there. Leonard Kowalski, a regular. Good evening, Chris. Hey, we aren't finishing the season against the Saints. That's refreshing. No, and that has happened several times, but we are not finishing the season against the Saints. Kim Blakely says, thanks for the video. Absolutely. You're welcome, and thank you for jumping on. Hey, thanks again to all the new subscribers, and we trying to reach 10,000. I feel like we should have did it last year. We grew so quickly during training camp as I was down in Spartanburg every single day, but I know what happened. We started losing pretty quickly, and things kind of deflated, but hopefully that won't be the case, and we'll look to get there this year. Appreciate the comment, Ken. All right, so let me go back to the schedule and point out a few things. So we actually have some early divisional matchups. All right, so I know there was talk that we don't play the Saints last this year, which is good. But if you look closely, we do play the Saints pretty early and twice. We open the season with the Saints in week 1 down there in New Orleans. And then we play them again in week 9 here in Charlotte. So that's pretty close games back to back. And things kind of get spread out pretty evenly. But if you look here, then we close the season. Not only do we have a tough stretch with weeks 12 through 15, but we also, after we get done with that tough stretch in weeks 12 through 15, we also play with an even shorter time span, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week 13, Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week 17. So that's just a month apart. Excuse me, but here's the tough thing. We end the season with 2 games on the road. And with those 2 games on the road, they are both divisional games. Against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which some of you may recall a few years ago, we were ending the season with some divisional road games, had a chance to still miraculously make it, and we lost to Tampa in Tampa. That comes to mind for me. I know we've had some implications playing New Orleans as well. But the other game is against the Falcons. And we've had some heartbreakers in Atlanta. We don't own the Falcons. So in the event that we do have a first half of the season that's pretty good, well, the second half of the season looks like it could balance it out, which is, in my opinion, hands down the hardest part of the season is that second half. So there are some obstacles there. But again, no primetime games, no Monday Night Football, no Thursday Night Football. And that's kind of shocking, right? We got a longer season, 17 weeks. I know more of these games are going to be, the Thursday night games are going to be on Amazon Prime. But it's not going to happen for the Carolina Panthers. None at all. We also, even though I believe the second part of the season is tougher, the first part of the season, we got a stretch. I thought we had 3. No, we got 2. Because we had 3 consecutive, but we have 2, week 7 and week 8. And then we played it down. So yeah, we don't have, the schedule doesn't have 3 consecutive away games. We're going to have some cold weather games, if you look at that. So let's look at the cold weather games late in the season. Well, let's actually go to this first half. I got to get my schedule order right. So we play November the 10th in Munich. So it's going to be getting cool at that point. Won't be cold. We won't be dead in the middle of winter. But when you travel over to Munich, Germany, which is at a higher elevation, I shouldn't say elevation. It's closer to the, it's further north. I'm not going to pretend to be a meteorologist. It's further north. Excuse me for the pause there. Average temperatures in that time of the year in Munich are like in the 40s. So that will be a cold game. But we also have the away game in Philadelphia, which is going to be, let's see where I can do this at, which is going to be week 14 in December. It definitely can be cold there at that time. And, when we play Denver, October 27th, again, that's not late, but given the altitude that they have in Denver and later in the season, it could be a cold game as well. All right, let me check in some more with the chats that are coming through. Jeffrey Swan, I like the stretch of home games after Germany and home game before. So yeah, there is a stretch. There's a slight stretch, but we got one before Germany. And then when we come back, we have a bye week. And then we have 2 home games afterwards. But, getting excited for those home games after Germany when they are against the reigning Super Bowl champs, specifically reigning 2-time Super Bowl champs. And then how many times have the Bucs won the division in a row? So it's some tough games. But I appreciate your comment there, Jeffrey. Mr. Lee here agreeing that we do not deserve a primetime game. Yeah, it's fair, right? Ken Blakely saying I'm okay with just Sundays anyway. Hey, I will tell you that from a professional journalist covering the NFL perspective, I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm not too mad at the lack of primetime games. Primetime games are great for everybody that's watching at home. I would say even if you're going to a primetime game, it's still tough, especially on the East Coast. Now, if you're out west, different story, but a primetime East Coast game, tough. You get home at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, no, about 3 o'clock in the morning. You leave the stadium, it's the craziest thing. You get to the stadium, it's kind of like few people around, tailgating to some action. Man, you leave that stadium with the media like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. It's just like nobody there. I remember last year when we played the Giants, it was a security guy. I asked him about how to get out of the stadium, and I thank him so much. The guy gave me a ride on the cart from the stadium all the way to my car, and it still took us like 7-8 minutes. And it's like nobody at the stadium, so that was cool and appreciated. But yeah, primetime games, I'm not too mad at it. Gabriella, okay. So some of you all have been meeting my co-host Andre Cassidy. Andre is definitely still with Charlotte Vibe. This will be year 3, first time. Let me give him a round of applause. Where's my applause at? Told you it's been a minute. Here we go. Let me hit the applause. There we go. Andre Cassidy, our first time ever 3-time returning co-host. So certainly look forward to work with Andre again this year. I know some others have met him. The High Vibe. Okay, not a bad name. 4-13 will be a good year in my opinion. Now, I have not gotten into thinking about how many games could we win. I want more than 4, though. I really do. Just thinking, 4-13. How about 5-12? I think 5-12, and the 12 losses, 2 of them can be bad, and the other 10 need to be competitive. They need to be entertaining. I don't know. Quick thoughts. Appreciate your high vibe. Brandon Ward, how are you feeling now that camp is being held in Charlotte? Man, I couldn't be more happy that it's being held in Charlotte. I'm telling you, this is what it will result in for you all that support the channel and watch the channel is more content. It'll be more content because I no longer have to drive back and forth about 4 hours a day to cover the team. That gives me more time to provide content. Looking into some situations where I'm going to be able to do some exciting things. I won't talk about them until they're absolutely concretely done, but I love it. I love it. And I'm sure fans honestly will have a lot more coverage from all their favorite outlets during that time because it's so much more convenient to be able to do it, but I'm excited about it. Shaked, appreciate you signing. I heard that you're not going to be buying any tickets this year. The economy being part of it. And man, I tell you what, the economy ain't no joke. The economy, the economy is like, me and my wife talk about the cost of groceries, how much things cost. She does most of the grocery shopping, but sometimes I'll need to run and get something. And it'd be like, I forget what comes to mind, man. But you buy things at grocery stores and you're just like, what in the world? This is terribly expensive. So, and so don't blame. But he says, hi, Chris, welcome back. I like the Panthers schedule except for the last 4 or 5 games after the bye week. Yeah, I've talked about it. That is tough. That is definitely tough. Why do we have more games on CBS than on Fox this year? Let me take a look. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're absolutely right. Let me mute my mic for just a second while I clear my throat. All right, thank you there while I cleared my throat. So you're right. A lot of games on CBS, a tremendous amount, including the Saints. Now I got the hiccups. Great. A good question that I do not have the answer for. Good question. Let me see if I can try to find that out. Let me try one thing while we're here live to see if I can get some insight. Yeah. Number one is the AFC, right? When we're playing our AFC opponents, then we're typically going to CBS. But then I also think if you go back and you look, let's see, CBS. At least on the first half of the schedule, we have some late games, right? So late games are typically going to be over on CBS instead of the 1 o'clock games, and we do have quite a bit of 4 o'clock games actually that stands out to me. We have, well, that's one. The first one's because we play out in Vegas, but so I get that one. Atlanta 4 o'clock game is strange. The Commanders 4 o'clock game is strange. The Broncos I get because that's a West Coast matchup. And then we play Tampa Bay, another East Coast 4 o'clock game. So we have 3 East Coast 4 o'clock games, East Coast opponents 4 o'clock games. So that's different, strange. So yeah, good question. Don't have the exact answer, but maybe that'll give you some insight on it. See, we've got a few more questions here we'll go through. Yeah, that second half versus Bucks sucked. Mike Evans laid us to. Oh, you're talking about the previous game? Yeah. Shakid, I'm not too happy that we don't have a primetime game, but I guess that 425 game against the Falcons at home is considered a primetime game. Also don't like the Panthers 9:30 a.m. kickoff. So absolutely the 9:30 a.m. kickoff is not for the U.S. This game is an international game strictly for broadening the NFL's reach, becoming more worldwide. So they're playing it at the convenience of the time that's local over there in Germany, not for the time that's convenient over here in America. So, I mean, it happens for all the international games. It happened when we played London. Appreciate the comment, though, Shakir. Keep them coming. Hey, we can go off topic a little bit, man, because when I was talking about road games back second half of the season and divisional opponent, I talked about the Tampa Bay game a couple years ago, in which we had an opportunity to make the playoffs, and that was when Steve Wilkes was our interim head coach, and certainly, it felt so many things felt right when he was head coach, and he didn't get the job. And then I think a lot of people rooted for him being out there in San Francisco, saying, "Hey, good for you. You got a better job. They're not doing well in Carolina anyway." Goes to the Super Bowl, so you're excited for him and possibly Christian McCaffrey and some of the other guys. And then he gets fired, and he currently does not have a job. So, how does he not have a job? Who knows? Could he even want a year off just to be like, I don't know. I haven't thought about it much, but I agree. Like, some things are just like mind blowing that happen. Currently, he is. Digit BR come in and, hey, the NFL's been wanting to go international for years. I don't agree with it, but it's a money issue. Here's a comment about the AFC. So the NFC used to be all Fox, and the AFC all CBS. It's changed in recent years. Yeah, definitely has. Wow, good point, Leonard. So for the people out west, but I have absolutely, I love you, Leonard. I have absolutely no empathy for people on the West Coast, because to me, if you're a sports fanatic, being on the West Coast is so much better than the East Coast. And I personally think And let's have an impromptu poll here. What do you think is better, East Coast or West Coast, if you're a sports fanatic? You know, give me your thoughts. Leave them in the comments. East Coast or West Coast. Maybe you have a different opinion about another time zone. My personal vote in favor is for a period of time back in my life, I lived in the Central time zone. And I was watching sports, of course. I've always loved sports. And I said, you know what? I think this is the sweet spot. I think the Central time zone is the sweet spot for sports. Games will not start at 1 o'clock. They'll start at 12 o'clock, like right at noon. It still gives you time to get up, get yourself together, get in some church, and then watch football. And then, but the bigger thing is the primetime games, the late games. They don't end at 11:30. They end at like 10:30. That's still decently late. Not too early. I don't know. Some people could say the West Coast, but I certainly think the East Coast gets the absolute short end of the stick when it comes to sports. And man, for basketball, I don't watch much basketball during the regular season, but the postseason, I like to watch a tremendous amount of basketball. But it's always been tiring. And then the older you get, it's like, man, I can't do it. I can't keep going to bed at 12 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock if it goes into to overtime just to watch the playoffs. It's too late. But still appreciate your support of the channel, Leonard. Thank you very, very much. You agree the West Coast way better. It is. I mean, come on. And then he says, what? We don't have to be up till midnight unless hockey game goes 5. Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is like the late games, the primetime games, the great games, they're up. And it's not like you're late for work the next day and you're all tired and lethargic, et cetera, et cetera. So no sympathy for you guys there. Hold on 1 second. I got just a few more things before we get off here. Like the channel, subscribe if you have not already done so. So let's see, I gotta count. My wife has me count. She counts on her fingers, and now she has me count on my fingers when I don't need to. So I'm not gonna do it. Yes, I'm gonna do it. So Munich, Germany is 6 hours ahead of the East Coast. 6 hours ahead of here in Charlotte. So that game in German time, and Germany would be at 3 p.m. local time. So not too bad, not too bad. West Coast because you get more party time. Hey, that's another very good thing that I don't think of. You know, if your team wins and you want to celebrate, you know, it's like, hey, you got a lot of people to party and celebrate with. But if they have a great game and they win, I mean, you could go out and celebrate, but typically I'm going with the average age. Being a fan that has a few kids, you're not going to celebrate. It's going to be too late. That concludes tonight's broadcast. I appreciate you all much. At the very least, you'll see me back again on Monday with fresh video from practice. Definitely aiming to get some Xavier Legette, Bryce Young connections on video for you all as well. So please consider to tune in, subscribe, turn on your alerts, and I'll talk to you shortly.